Coming up on tonight's episode of CounterStrike Casuals.
It's the benefit of Smear talking so much shit. You just don't know what's true or not. He can tell you the truth to your face, and you'll be like, "Really? Is that true?" I don't know.
Well, one of the Welcome back, guys, casuals everywhere, to the CounterStrike Casual podcast. This week we have a very special guest and an episode for you all, with teams in Counter-Strike 2, Trackmania, Rainbow Six Siege, Escape from Tarkov, Sim Racing and Halo. I think I've got them all there. He is one of the most transparent organisation owners on Twitter and one of those rare ones that seems to be able to keep them afloat. He's the CEO and founder of Into the Breach. Welcome and thank you very much, Sam, AKA Slay, for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll do a cheers since we've all got a beer.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And good day of results. So cheers to the Into the Breach team who got some good wins today, which we were just
very
watching.
good. Very good.
First, I do want to ask, what happened the other day with these DDoS attacks? What was happening there?
Good question. Fuck knows. I think essentially we were the victim of a Russian betting ring, of which there's many in the scene. And essentially, when they want a team to lose, when bets are locked and they can't, and a lot of agencies can't pull them, then they just DDoS a specific player or the entire team until the team is either forced to forfeit or they have ping issues, and then they're more likely to lose. It's a problem in the scene. It doesn't happen as much anymore because the anti-cheat is actually quite good. But I think whatever new anti-cheat we used, at least this was what the players were saying, apparently was causing problems, and that might have been a method of, or the way that they got RRPs and were attacking Smear specifically. But yeah, it sucked. It wasn't good. We haven't done a full investigation. We just dropped out the cup. Hopefully other teams don't have that problem. I think one or two did. But yeah, unfortunate.
So the tournament organisers, they'll just carry on with the tournament as normal?
Yeah, they did reach out to me, and they said, please remove all the stuff. All this basically it said, stop chatting shit. This is what we did XYZ. No other team has had any problems. And then, an hour after they messaged me, another team was DDoS attacked, and they were forced to forfeit. So
yeah, I saw that another team tweeting about it.
Yeah,
insane.
I think nine won it eventually. It was a good cup. I quite liked it. I like the system as well, and the format. I think it's good.
You can say
figure it out.
You can say you lost to the winners then, the eventual winners, even if it was.
That's cool.
Weren't you guys up as well?
Yeah, I think we were going to win it. We probably would have won that cup, I think, based on the performance we've been doing. But yeah, man, I don't know. It does happen in some of these cups. It's a good win for 9. I think the organizer is legit. I don't know if some of their problems, and I think perhaps they had some issues with some external parties, but who knows?
Yeah, well.
All right. Well, on to other things. I'd love to take it right back, Sam, and again, why we're really excited to have you on is just a kind of bit of an insight and a look into, especially for our listeners, we're quite casual guys, not all in the scene like a lot of the kind of other podcasts, and religiously know people in the scene, which we don't. Just to take it right back to how the hell did you get into owning or starting an esports organisation like Into the Breach?
Yeah. Well, just for context, since we were talking just before we went live, you mentioned that you were in the kind of professional scene, office-led and everything else. That's what I did as well. After I completed my master's, I came out of uni and I was recruited by a firm called Charles River Associates, and I worked in a life sciences firm. So life sciences consulting, in which I specialized in access for rare disease therapies, primarily in the EU market. I did a lot of work in Asia as well, because I speak Chinese, because I went to university in Hong Kong. And then, so I was doing that, very corpo, very normal. Then COVID hit, and that was all the way back in. That's so wild to think that was like 2020 now.
Yeah.
COVID was nearly 4 years ago.
Insane.
Yeah. And all of a sudden I don't have to commute or come back or be in the office. I'm finishing my days, and I have like an extra like 4 or 5 hours suddenly. You know what I mean? As well as being stuck inside. I was always a gamer. I always watched Twitch. I was like an avid follower of Dota at the time.
Okay. Is that your game?
but-
Would you say? Dota?
Yeah, it was my game. That was my game. Basically.
Okay.
And I wanted to get involved. Basically, live vicariously through younger, better players than me. So I hit up a few different players and basically offered them like the chance to professionalize their roster. So I said, I do any BD, which is what I did as part of my work as well. I made a website. I had structure. With my friend, we had like a system and bot that did scheduling, and we basically said, like, I'll do it for free. Just come join. You don't have to pay me. I just want to be involved, essentially. Then it just kind of evolved from there. Essentially, I put a little bit of money in, and we got a bit lucky with the DPC, which was the Dirt Pro League, which then formed. We got one of our first sponsors, which was G2A. I'm not sure how I convinced them, to be honest. And Cooler Master was giving us giving us 200 quid a month.
Sorry to interrupt. So at this time, you're still working like a 9-to-5 job almost.
Yeah, I did everything on the side. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is, I think, honestly, what you have to do if you're starting up an esports organization as well. Just to note, I mean, it's a hobby until you can fund it to not be, or you have external funding, which is what a lot of people did. In the early days, they got when they were growing, it was mainly a hobby on the side, and then some big venture capitalists came in and said, "We want to throw money at you because this is growing up." Anyway, G2A paid us about £1,000 a month, so we had like all of a sudden £1,200 to play with, alongside with like 500 quid. That was enough for like a low tier roster.
Can I ask just how you sourced the original roster then? Did you know of them just from yourself playing, or?
Yeah, so I used to know basically everyone in the scene, not in person or thing. I would just keep tabs, like I was that close to the ecosystem, I guess. And I was a reasonable player myself. I was around 5 or 6k in my MR, which back then, I don't know, was like top 5k maybe, or something like that.
For context, we don't play Dota, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, I was aware of who I wanted to be in the team, and I formed them, and I would do interviews and watch replays and yada yada. And yeah, it just grew and grew, essentially. I tried a bunch of different stuff, and then eventually settled on the template, which we have now, which is kind of the foundation of the business. We got a few more sponsors, and then I decided to take some investment. So we took about 250k from Fisher 8, became friends with these guys, and then we leveraged that to grow. And then we got the Paris Major, which honestly, it's like in esports, it's a bit of luck, a bit of talent, and a bit of well-supported foundation.
How did you manage to transition over to CS2 from Dota?
Yeah,
do you watch? Do you play CS2, or do you watch? Or
no, I mean, I've got maybe 30 minutes in CounterStrike.
No,
still.
Really?
Right,
never really
stop the podcast, guys. No,
yeah,
but it was CS:GO.
So I relied on other people to do that.
why CS2 though? Just because it was so popular, or?
Yeah, CS:GO back then, because it melded well with Dota and sponsors. Honestly, it was like 70% of the conversations they were having, they were asking, "Do I have a CS:GO roster?" So just based on that, and based on those conversations alone, it was like, okay, well, it makes perfect sense to just go that and throw our weight behind a UK roster, which is what we did when we found Adam.
Yeah.
930, and that roster did pretty well overall. We got a bit of a cult following, and 1 or 2 more sponsors, and then subsequent to that, I was funding that on my own. Though at that point, I was kind of like knee deep, because I was throwing like £1,000 or £2,000 of my own money a month into it, and then even more so after. I was probably, I don't know, £50,000 or £60,000 deep before we got some investment.
Jesus.
So not knowing anything about CS, that must have been quite daunting to go into kind of an area of esports that you don't know much about.
Yeah, but it was fun as well. It's a challenge, you know. So
Yeah.
it's like we're again in the early stages of that company, and most companies. But I think this is especially true in esports. You have to do everything. You have to be the scout, the primary scout. You have to like contracts. I never did in my work, but I had to learn them. I had to learn how to do contracts. I had to learn how to do the finances. I did all the business development. The one thing I couldn't really do was like website and coding, which one of my close friends who I was living with at the time also helped me with. Marketing, I had to do social media. I did it all myself. But then you grow and then you try to bring people in who can take stuff, and then progressively you can just delegate. But you still have to be the front runner, and I still try to be now. Yeah.
Can you mentioned
So
sorry.
what at what point did you go from like a hobby, like I'm just doing this for fun, to like this could be a business. I could do this as a living almost.
Yeah, when we got one of our first big sponsors, and also that 250K from, I think I sold like a quarter of the company back then for 250. I don't know how necessarily, but anyway, we got that, and then it was kind of the onus because I had to declare it, and at that point I had to tell my work as well. Like this is
reveal what you've been doing.
Yeah, basically. And I just made a decision. I just kind of went for it. I just leapt. I was like, okay, well, I'll give it a year, because I was already in the industry for like 3 years at that point. And if I take a year hiatus, it'll be okay. I can still come back in the same level if this fucks up somehow. But then after the year, we were in Paris, and we were taking in over 3 million from that, which was crazy.
Was that like just like a massive?
And that is why there's so much emphasis on a major.
Yeah, Paris was the biggest by far, but even the small ones, you easily rake in a million or so. Shanghai will be huge, I reckon. I keep saying, I mean, Smoo and a few other players don't think it will be, but I think it'll be 4 million plus.
Really? Gutted then.
Yeah.
But,
it's a really good time for you guys though, because this is probably the best roster you've had.
Yeah, I mean, we're spending a lot on this. And,
so is a gamble, you'd say, then, the amount that's outgoing on this roster?
It's not a gamble because basically the agreement with Shuffle, and which is why we operate this integrated partnership, is the primary issue in esports is that, as you say, a lot of the rosters that you take on are gambles, in the sense that if you take on a big player, you pay him a big salary, 6 months down the line, he hasn't achieved anything, and you've got a big hole, and you're banking. It might even set you back a few years in terms of where you're at, your position in terms of, unless you've got a very large bank that can mitigate that, or you're, across several different esports avenues, like likely one might, enable you, and another one might be dragging you down. But Liquid is very good at this. They spread themselves so far that there's always somewhere that will either be, a little bit higher, or a little bit lower, but the variance is minimal. Anyway, the idea to find that kind of stability in esports, at least, you want to mitigate that variance as much as possible. And that's what Shuffle enable for us, because they pay for the salaries. So we've got a long-term partnership with them, and they cover all CS expenditure. What they get in as a result of that is, very strong marketing. We've given up part of our brand as a result of that. It's integrated and a lot of stuff as well. They'll also cover Dota and Deadlock. So when that comes out, we'll have.
Nice.
You can have a team, yeah.
And the budget is substantial, essentially. But this removes the risk from us.
Okay.
Because they will always pay the salaries, and as long as we're hitting their KPIs, which we will be, that's our job.
Yep.
Anything above that is cream for the organization.
Okay.
Cream, obviously meaning profit. So that also means we can undercut our competition in terms of pricing, because salaries are already covered. So we're selling, partnership deals for 1, 2K, 3K, and then all that goes into profit. That pays for the admin staff, and then you just grow incrementally. And if this team does something, really good, like goes to a major, gets stickers, then we're in the bank again. So that's the power of CS.
And that's probably the reason why you've got such a good roster at the minute. I remember Smoothie was on. I can't remember where it was. Diz, you might remember. He was on. He was on the sofa with HLTV.
HLTV, yeah, the London one we were at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
That was where
you hadn't got your fifth at that point, right?
Huh?
You didn't have your fifth. You didn't have a fifth member at that point, and I think, or you.
Was Boros the fifth announced?
Yeah,
It was when
it wasn't announced. We were still talking. Smoothie was pushing for Red Star, and obviously he was right to do that.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that 1 second because it was Chaos, wasn't it? One of the guys on the HLTV said, I think it was Strike or someone said, "Is it Chaos?" And Smoothie was like, "No, and it's like, yeah, it was Chaos." But
it's the benefit of Smoothie talking so much shit. You just don't know what's true or not. He can tell you the truth to your face, and you'll be like, "Really? Is that true?" I don't know.
Well, one of the questions I did have was there any concerns around? I mean, you have an experience with Smoothie in the past, right? I think he's played for you guys, stood in. But did you have concerns about signing him as the kind of none whatsoever?
No, I don't know what he did in his prior rosters. I think it's fine, but he publicly gets a bad rep. Behind the scenes, he's professional. He understands. He's very smart. He's savvy. He's a businessman. He wouldn't do anything to contravene his ability to make income. So, he might be a bit loud or abrasive, but that's good for us. That gets us clicks essentially. That's marketing. That's why he's got a fan base. People love to hate him or hate to love him.
Oh, he's great to watch. Yeah, and he's he's a good player. He's an incredibly good player.
As well.
Yeah.
For us, it was a no-brainer. Like we want that drama. If he says something a bit stupid or he's a bit yappy, even like today when he was like, things have changed. I don't even think about Fatic anymore. I've had a lot of sex, a lot of I made a lot of money, and that's great for us. For another brand like I would say Astralis, but who gives a fuck? For Liquid or something, that might be a bit. They might be just tone it down. But I want more of that, so I'm very happy with that. That's also why we got Juan, him lighting up a Siggy in front of the, that's perfect for us. That's exactly what we want. So, no qualms at all.
Brady was loving that, wasn't he? You were loving Juan's smoking earlier on. I don't know if Brady's lagged out here or what. He might just... Brady, you lagged out, but we were just gassing about Juan Flatro lighting up a cigarette in that match as well, which you were fond of.
Yeah. I think from what you've said, Sam, this is like the perfect roster for you guys because I feel like they're quite. I don't know what the word is, but most of the guys are like quite extravagant and quite out there.
Talent mixed with personality, I think, is probably the key.
Yeah,
it's what we wanted essentially. As long as they're working well, the only concern that we had is that if we get too many big personalities, they'll start bouncing off each other in a negative way. But Juan and Sinop, they're fine. Kios is is very chill. He shouts online, and Red Star is just some silent killer. He's like an assassin. He's like 1844.
He's so good. He's so good. So
we're super happy with the roster. I think they've got an extremely high ceiling, and they do all the marketing that we need them to do. So it's perfect for us. It's great. Yeah.
Me and Diz have mentioned a few times on the podcast actually, like why Smoothie hasn't got a team yet. So we were super excited when you guys started putting this roster together.
I mean, he's aggy. Like he doesn't take any shit. So probably if you got a bit of an ego, which I do, but I have to temper it with him. Like if Pay is even a day late, he's like in my DMs being like,
Yeah, that's fair enough, man. I'm like that as well. Yeah, I'm like that.
Sort your shit out, you fucking XYZ. And it's fine, that's how you talk to each other. But because I've known him and grown a relationship with him, then it's okay. We kind of understand each other. But I can understand for a lot of other people, and for the reasons I mentioned before, he'd be a difficult person to manage, maybe.
From an outsider, I feel like he's quite a big part of the team. Like, is he kind of helping build this team?
Oh yeah. I mean, he was our first select. It was like, we need Smoothie, and then we can build around him. That was the plan.
So were you quite confident that you could get him on board?
Yeah, he was down. We pay him a pretty penny as well. So honestly, probably other teams wouldn't even be able to outbid us on what we're willing to pay for Smoothie because he ticks so many boxes for us.
Okay.
So it kind of works. All boxes ticked on our end, and it seems like we tick all boxes on his end as well. He wants mutual respect. He wants to be paid on time, and he wants to have agency in the roster. Because in the prior ones, he's always been almost a minority figure. He got kicked from Fnatic. Well, not necessarily a kick, but there was always someone who had a higher caliber or authority in the roster than him. So he's always vulnerable in that respect. In his roster, that's not the case. So, yeah.
Just
it seems...
Go on,
Diz. I'll let you talk.
Well, I wanted to quickly move on from our Smoothie loving. If you've got one more loving to add, I'll let you.
No, go on.
Well, I did want to ask, and we spoke about it briefly. You can say what you can reveal what you want, but obviously we're talking about big personalities and big or concerns of bringing people in, and Boros was one that you had, and I definitely wanted to ask about. And were there concerns there then? If they weren't with Smuya and you were like, nope, that's fine, big personality, but legend, Boros.
Yeah.
Was there concerns there? Was that one that you thought, this is a risk, but one worth taking at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it was a risk. I think even Boris acknowledged that. As Mia said several times publicly, him and Juan essentially played the same role. The thought process in the way that it could work, and this was agreed by the coach and also Crystal, the analyst, and also part coach, and a few of the players, at least they were on and are in, is that if Boris can come back and play his Monty style, and Juan can adapt a little bit, but also still frag in the way that he does, we will have so much firepower that we'll just be able to run teams over, and it doesn't even matter what strats they bring because we have so many head clickers that it's just not possible. Unfortunately, it didn't work out as well. In part, those role incompatibilities did present themselves, and also ping became a problem. Boris, nice chap. I still think he's a very good player. I hope he finds a team. Obviously, he's benched with us now, but I don't want him to cycle through the same thing that he had at Falcons, where he just doesn't find a team for X amount of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the problems, and they manifested themselves. And we just took action quicker than we just wanted to deal with the problem quickly, since we'd already identified it could be a potential problem. It showed that it was a problem, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Red Star.
Yeah, okay. You kind of dipped your toes in the water, realised, you didn't like the water, got rid of it pretty quick.
Just change it, yeah.
Fair enough. And in terms of a decision like that, right? So I'm really keen to understand in an organisation like you and others, if there's a move to make, who makes that decision? Is it you, or is it someone like Smear and the others saying, look, this isn't quite gelling? Or was it we're all on board, we all know this is going to happen, but who has the ultimate? Obviously you're the kind of main guy, but I'm just keen to understand how that works. Do you go, right boys, we're going to change this up, and they're all in agreement, or how does it kind of transpire?
I listen to the team. I've done that across the board and everything. For me, it makes sense to do that. They're the ones that are playing consistently. Obviously I have experience managing a lot of different rosters now, and I can see things perhaps that they can't from a more, I don't know, C-suite level, if you use that term. And I might push them to try a little bit harder, or maybe something slightly different. But ultimately, if they say this isn't working, we need to change, I'll say, okay, how do you want to change, and which change do you want to make? And listen to what they want to do. I don't think I could. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the coach either, so it'd be like, I mean, you see it all the time in Premier League football, right, where the chairman get an inflated ego.
Yeah.
And they think they can make a better decision than the people on the pitch or the managers. If I was that person, I think I'd fuck up a lot of rosters. So, it's always from the team. The buck stops with me, but I have to listen to the team ultimately. Yeah.
Well, these guys are playing so many games, and when they're not, they're often playing FPL, or they're playing with these guys all the time, so they know who's on the up, come up, and who would fit well. We might have skipped around a bit. I really will know I've always got quite a bit of a set agenda, but anyway, I'm freestyling today. All good. I wanted to touch on the kind of fragile nature of esports organizations, and again, we spoke really briefly about sponsorship and the kind of structure earlier. How fragile is it really out there? Because there seems to be loads of tin pot organizations, loads of, some people call them scam organizations or whatever, and I'm just, how real fragile is it? Like, how on the brink is an organization, would you say, from actually just going bust? And not necessarily just you guys, but others in general. Is there any real insight into that
I mean, what I'd say is it's very difficult to maintain a cash reserve. Even when we were coming up, for example, you have to take those risks where you just don't operate with a cash reserve. You're just like, as long as you cover the contracts, so if you've got a month, for example, you have a month notice on the contracts. If the sponsors pull out or the team isn't doing well, and you're going to run out of money, you just cut, and then so that you don't end up owing them.
Really?
A lot of all, as you see don't even do that. So they won't even have the cash reserves to cover the contracts that they're paying, and that's why you see a lot of organizations going broke, and then not being able to pay the teams that they're owed. I mean, we've had this problem as well, especially when massive money starts to come in. We try to keep 3 months minimum of contracts, so at least covering all the contract terms. If we have to cancel everything, then we can cover everything, plus 3 months, which is our minimum. Basically, which is difficult, and sometimes it's difficult paying out. Even like the final payment for Paris sticker, for example, we had a few issues there, and we had to come to an agreement to pay it out monthly, so it's easier in terms of our cash flow, and also to protect our cash reserves, because it's something I don't want to break. Basically, you can even see, I think in what was it, last month, Guild, like an operation of that size had like 30k in the bank.
It's insane.
Like, what the fuck? That's absolutely obscene. In no other industry will you have that, really. But it's like it's a risk reward. Sometimes all the success stories you can probably even see with like teams like Fnatic. I bet if you ask Sam, like truly asked him, Sam's the other owner, by the way, Sam Matthews, I believe his name is, like, how close did you come to being bankrupt? He'll probably say several times. It's probably true for a lot of different organizations as well. I mean, realistically, it's either gonna become what the Premier League is, football, whereby it essentially becomes a millionaire's playpen, which it already kind of is, especially with the Saudis. It'll either do that, and it'll evolve to a billionaire's playpen, or it will maintain companies like Liquid, which are not even an esports organization. It's a tech company, and esport is just part of their operations. That's what we learned early on. That's what we tried to do as well, that you need to have a multifaceted revenue stream. And we split our company across the board, and also tried to diversify in terms of the assets we have, which is why we went into Be Cozy with clothing. That's why we bought TGH, and that's why we do a few other things as well. Again, it's trying to mitigate that variance that I just mentioned. I mentioned earlier that ultimately it's a luck-based sport. You can have as much analysis and Moneyball as much as you want, but ultimately, like Spirit, you might find a few Russian guys, and all of a sudden they're the best in the world, and you go win TI, which is the pinnacle of Dota. They won it 2 times, and then they've got 35 million in the bank. It's just like, well, where the fuck did that come from? Same with us. We put together a roster, and then we get to Paris.
Yeah, that's same.
It's a Cinderella moment. That like elevated us 5 years, even.
Yeah,
we're 5 years ahead of we would have been if we hadn't been before. So
after that Paris run, was there a real pressure or concern, or was it just happy days? We've got some money in the bank and we've done a run, or was there a real? We've got to maintain this now. There's an expectation that Into the Breach should be making these deep runs and making majors all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from that. We looked at it that way, actually. When we said it's like, okay, we've got this money coming in. We're on the verge or the cusp of a tier 1 organization. We can do 2 things. We can spend a shit ton of money and try to make a play for that tier 1, and then kind of be amongst that like top 20 organizations. The sponsors will then come. We've got the time that we need, because we've got like a year of high expenditure as a result of the money that we just got in. Or we kind of sit on the money and look at a 5-year plan, pay for a 5-year plan, but just accept that we're going to still be in that tier 2, tier 3 play. Ultimately, we went for the tier 1 play. Like, we upped the salaries a lot. We brought in Basuta.
Yeah.
We tried to play for Quicker, for example. We had issues with the IGL with Thomas, and it just didn't work out. We ended up burning a bunch of capital, not doing very well. And then we were from a high of like May in Paris. By February, all our sponsors had dropped. We had like no results, and we were spending like 40 grand a month on the CSGO roster.
Yeah, I remember you tweeting saying that your sponsors dropped just before the most recent RMRs, right? And it kind of just was that not the catalyst for you pretty much transfer listing everyone,
Yeah. So essentially I was like, okay, well, we made our play, it's failed. Now we have to cut back and focus again on tier 2, or tier 3 essentially, or build build up from the bottom again. Refocus on our infrastructure, make sure our revenue is secure, bring in new sponsors, and stop burning as much cash as we have. Otherwise, as mentioned, we were going to start burning into that cash reserve, which I never want to operate without one again. Just because it's not sustainable. Or again, we just end up becoming one of those organizations that all of a sudden falls off the face of the mountain in a month. And there will be another big organization in about a month's time doing exactly that, and you'll see it very soon. And they're going to owe shit tons of money.
Oh,
They're not
okay.
going to be able to pay it.
Well, as in, you're not willing to name who that might be, but
No, I can't do it. But in literally
Okay.
a month, there'll be another organization that does that falls off the face of the map. Like you think it's going fine, and then all of a sudden they're dead.
who's the
and
most
it's really
recent
sad.
one? Preezy. They went like
Easy, yeah.
that was
Yeah.
one that recently came and just was there when they're Dupree and all that, and just went pop.
Yeah. I mean, Guild is tinkering.
Guild, yeah.
I don't want to shit on them too much, but it's just like
I think it's just funny because David Beckham's name was to it, and then so everyone just thought, right, well, great, it's David Beckham, and
yeah. It's just hard to be like, how much you had everything. You got, you have the sponsors, you got massive reserves, you got a really sick center, you've done a lot of cool stuff, and then you just fuck it. And then I mean, we're constantly talking internally. It's just like if we had those opportunities, what we could have done with them.
But
in terms of like organizations that you mentioned Liquid a few times, and I was thinking in terms of organizations that you kind of look up to, that you kind of want to not mimic, but you think they're doing things the right path. Who would you say that is in kind of tier 1 organizations?
I mean, the top tier French organizations and German organizations have just got it to a T, I think. Some of the US ones as well, I mean, Liquid included for sure. Space Station Gaming has like a super good model, really good success. They've got no debt. They fully own the company, and they've got a bunch of really cool stuff. They do a lot of cool stuff. Endpoint, I repeat this constantly. Endpoint, I mean, they got given a solid opportunity, and they've just grown it into several sustainable, very good businesses in the UK, no less. And I rant about how difficult it is, I think, in that to get sponsor opportunities. It's a great organization, and then Ents, I think. I mean, they just went from they just grow and grow. Like they just can't. Besides this roster that they've most recently got, they just didn't make a wrong move in terms of their player transfers. Like they got bought out and gutted constantly, and every selection they just made kept making the major. They kept selling people for profit.
It seemed like a bit of a feeder kind of organization. They're kind of like
it's a feeder organization that refused to keep feeding, and then even though they do it, they just like all their talent just kept getting eaten up, but they just find new ones consistently. Majors back to back. I mean, even Astralis and other organizations, I don't think they did that, and they did it on a shoestring budget versus other organizations. So super savvy, really smart business, and I think they're only now kind of transitioning into other ecosystems, and they're doing that smartly as well. So yeah, it's good. Fnatic as well, I think, is great. Honestly, the way they've done everything is really cool. It's a great brand. So yeah.
Even though you beat them today.
Yeah, GG. You mentioned then about rebuilding from obviously the highs of the Paris Major run, and then kind of having to now rebuild after your little roll with the dice with the team.
Yeah.
You're now in the kind of trenches, as it were, right? And recently, Ash from Gamer Legion, the coach at Gamer Legion, was on a big podcast and really had some negative stuff to say about the kind of area you guys are operating as well, like tier 2, tier 3. He was saying about, well, I guess the DDoS attack is a very prime example of kind of dodgy goings on, but things that can give it a bit of a bad rep. And he was really negative on the scheduling, dodgy teams, dodgy players. Is it really like that? Is that the kind of feel, like the solid grind all the time, never getting out of it? What is it like in these? Yeah.
I mean, you are in the song. I mean, no disrespect to literally, but in the trenches is a very good analogy because you are fighting literally every day. I mean, the schedule is nuts. Even today, we played 3 best of 3s across 3 different tournaments.
Yeah.
And in those games, in every single tournament we're in, pretty much in tier 2, 3, I will say this: there's going to be at least one cheating player. Betters and people get upset and mauled about it, but they are prolific. and the malware is so good that you can't. It's very difficult to detect, and if they're smart about it, Joel is a like if he was smart about it, he would not have been detected. For example, the reason why he didn't get detected is because he didn't update. He was using an old piece of software. He didn't keep tabs, and he made it like too obvious.
Oh,
And
God.
even if you've got half an IQ, you can cheat and get away with it probably. And since you're in the trenches anyway, and it's very difficult, and if you're not skilled enough, it's quite tempting for a lot of these young players. I wish it was better, but I don't know. I mean, Zero Tenacity is the team that keeps getting mentioned. I'm sure they do some sketchy shit. There's a myriad of different rosters that do that as well.
Didn't you play them
It
recently?
makes me laugh when we get accused of it because I'm sure they're raking in money doing it. It's just like I wish I had the the sketchy throw game money, but it's not worth it for us as a legitimate organization. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it really is the trenches. It sucks. It's difficult. It's very, 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 very difficult.
If there's cheaters in the pro scene at these levels, then there's no hope for us casuals at like, horrible face at levels. We get one cheater and we're like, I'm not playing for a week. It's like, So do you think things will change with the highly anticipated removal? No, with the partnered stuff, it's just the same. It's not. No.
I mean, CS is unique because it's owned by Valve. Obviously, I don't know what slant they're going to take with Deadlock, but they're almost ideologically libertarian in terms of how they operate their games, especially in terms of the tournaments. The pro or negative side of that is that you get full calendar. The negative of that, and kind of shooting my own foot here a bit, but is that they're all essentially sponsored by betting outlets. And if you didn't have betting or skins or that kind of libertarian outset or mindset to the tournament ecosystem in CS, which also in part, by the way, enables these cheaters and these other teams who would be banned in a riot sphere, then you just wouldn't have the game days that you have. It would be an entirely different thing. You just have to look at what, I don't know, it's difficult. I think they could pay more attention, but the way they operate, that's just Valve. The only way it would change, and this I really hope not, is if Gaben dies. Honestly, because he's the OG and the leader. This is his mindset and his decisions. Funneling down all the way. Valve has like 250 employees across the board. They're the most valuable company per employee in the world.
Yeah,
so
it's insane.
They operate how they want to operate. I don't think they even had a HR department until like 2016. So this is a distinctive, unique company, and you have to look at how they operate and they manage as reasons why CS is the way it is.
Insane. And okay, so in terms of your aims for like moving into other games, and you mentioned Deadlock, Valorant there is right as well. Is there any plans to? You mentioned Deadlock, but what about Valorant? Why have you guys not dipped?
Never.
No.
I mean, I can't afford it.
Right.
Sponsors. I'll tell you this: the entire strategy for RCS Dota and Deadlock division will be to make Shuffle happy.
Okay.
As long as we're making Shuffle happy, they will pay the salaries, and then we can fund, in part, the admin team by smaller scale partnerships that will latch on to the CS, Dota, and Deadlock team. You can't have that strategy in Valorant or League of Legends or anything else. You either have to be sitting on a bunch of VC money. You need like a huge partnership with a massive brand like Coca-Cola or something.
Right.
You need a local fan base that's rabid.
Yep.
Seed grants, or other ways or systems of revenue like Liquid, or you need to be a partnered organization and getting skins and passive revenue, which we have no possibility of getting in League of Legends or Valorant. That's why we looked at Rainbow Six Siege, for example, and Halo, because we have hopes that we will partner with the developers there and also Tarkov, which will enable passive and secure income on a year-by-year basis, and that will mean a secure degree of profit, which we can then funnel back into a team. And again, mitigating that risk. If we spend like 2 years in that scene not doing very well, in the third, we might get lucky with a few guys and then make a major, and then we're Gucci. It's fine. It doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's basically the strategy in half.
Okay.
If betting's in the scene, then make Shuffle happy. If it isn't, then look at passive revenue and cost effectiveness.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask your opinion. Obviously, we're all British people here. Your view on the kind of British scene. I mean, you're an international team now, an international roster, but obviously the Thomas-led team at the major. But by the way, I had to mention, I've actually got this in my notes. Iconic Cypher taking his stuff up in a Tesco bag to the point where I've got that picture out and shown my non-gaming friends who are like, yeah, I've been at the pub, or I was on a stag do, and I said to my friends, I've got this podcast, whatever. They're like, I was like, mate, and around that time, that's when you guys were having that run. I remember because we had a few episodes on it, and I was like, boys, look at this. He's got his gaming equipment in the Tesco bag. You cannot. That is pure Brit, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that roster was pure Brit. I mean, obviously, well, it's probably pure Brit being half Romanian anyway. Like, you know, with Volt, you know, he's binational. Thomas is about as British, Southern British as you come. Kai is just, you know, the epitome of Britain. And then a lot of the admin stuff as well. Palm Marvin were British. We had Cuba. I thought, honestly, I was like, okay, like we've got to the major stage, it's the quarterfinal. We're against a French team. Kai's come up in a Tesco bag. We've got a major, you know, like a majority UK team.
Yeah.
We've done something no UK team that Endpoint has been trying almost for a decade. And we've done it. It's like, it's okay. It's like we're set. It's only a matter of time before a big UK brand like Tesco comes and like, you know, let's sponsor these boys. It's a no-brainer. It's a big engagement. It's going to go huge. And just fucking nothing.
That's insane.
So I'll be honest, it got me a bit salty after that. I mean, Kai and Volt got bought out anyway.
Yep.
But when we got nothing, and again, this was a kind of a cycle of conversation that entered into that tier 1 or tier 2, 3 discussion. Because if we again went for a UK roster, we kind of had to go to tier 3 anyway. Because even Azu, the one very good player that we had Orion was in Endpoint.
Endpoint, yeah.
And there's no other talent that can get you there in the UK at the minute, unfortunately. That, you know, isn't either picked up by Endpoint or isn't going to work necessarily well. And we already had Joey, and we can't get rid of Joey and replace him with Smuya, and then play him with. And Smuya wouldn't play with anyone UK anyway.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Okay, well, shine some light on that, just because we're annoying, or
he thinks they're shit.
Well, fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, he can talk to himself, but even Kai, for like the longest time, he thought Kai was really bad, and I was telling him, you know, this kid's good. I was like, no, he's not. But then, you know, he proved him wrong. So
yeah.
And Volt is not even British anymore, essentially, in terms of how he identifies. He identifies back with his.
Yeah, he changed his flag on HLTV, right?
Yeah. So I mean, there's that. I thought we were set. The two best UK players, past Muya and Thomas, got bought out. No UK businesses were interested.
Did you proactively talk to any businesses?
Oh yeah, I mean, on the day, like the night Kai brought up his Tesco bag, we DM'd as many Tesco people that we could possibly find on LinkedIn, and on Gmail. I was just like, look at this, look, you know, 10 million views.
Yeah, how many views? Yeah.
But it just doesn't.
This is the systematic problem with the UK and their view on gaming. Okay, esports and gaming, because everyone I know games now in the UK. COVID and lockdown was a real big push in this, and we've been gamers all our lives. Everyone in this chat here, surely, yeah. But one thing that I was always judged on and was gaming, and why are you doing that or whatever. And everyone does it. Everyone plays FIFA or COD pretty much. But there seems to be a real reluctance to recognise gaming as a career path, and also something that can actually benefit people in terms of social aspects. I mean, I'm not going to go on a mad rant. I am kind of already, but I've had this debate so many times with different people. It seems that the UK has a real I don't know what the word is, weird outlook on it, to the point where they don't take it seriously. They don't recognise the exposure it can have, the income it can bring to a business and people.
It's legitimacy, essentially. I mean, we're having the same problem with the UK UK ETC. We're talking with government officials; they don't really recognise it. But you know, to your point, I remember in sixth form when I started talking about PC gaming, I felt like I was coming out. You know, I was trying to talk about my sexuality. It was that you know, big of a deal. It's like, what, you know, you play a game, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
If it
Yeah,
isn't Call
I
of
still
Duty,
have that.
it's different.
I think it's probably worse that I've got kids. My wife's like, "Oh, Dave's going
Yeah,
to
why?
this gaming event or something."
Yeah,
And I'm just like a little bit
Yeah.
embarrassed. Like, yeah, I am.
when we went to Blast and that, getting that past our family was, they would just start. They couldn't get it. It's like, well, what?
Yeah, when I show them videos of like arenas and stuff, they're just like, "What? Like, that's
Yeah.
crazy."
Yeah, but
We'll see
they
if
go
it
watch
changes.
darts. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
anyway.
But yeah, in the UK, it is very difficult. I mean, you might Verdant. I think they have a local brand. Obviously, Endpoint is the exception as well. But part of that, we just struggled. We had one, which I won't name anymore, UK brand, who was working with us, but we now have to sue them for no payment. So that's the thing.
Right.
But then, if my point is, if you look at like the highest tier of French, German, Turkish, even US organizations, Brazilian, Chinese, they all have large-scale local national sponsors, and they all effectively lean on nationalism as an effective means to generate income. You can't do that in the UK. You can't. And the easiest way to see that as fact is all the largest UK organizations are now international, including us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Endpoint has been stuck as great as they are in the mud in tier 2 and 3. I don't know. I question if they'd be able to really elevate to the level of Fnatic or something. I'd say we have a better chance of doing that now because of
I agree.
going into etc.
yeah, especially with the current squad.
But you would see like Fnatic doesn't have a local sponsor. Guild, like, does Guild have a local sponsor? Even those brands were international. They had Sky.
Yeah, Sky was that's right.
There might be one exception, and they really threw money at them. But they've shit the bed with that as well. So I don't know. It's rough. I found it rough. I'm a bit salty about it. Pete should probably be a lot more salty than I am. Either way, though, like even the Paris thing, when the guys, the Bin Men, for example, and a lot of the other UK fans, they came out and they were, rabid. That was great. That was like a life-defining moment for me. So I still appreciate all the fans and support.
Would you say that's been the biggest high since you've owned the organization?
Yeah. It's like crack cocaine, mate. It's like it's as good as good as you can possibly get. I think I even tweeted that at one point. It's just like, if you ever have an urge to do drugs, just do esports instead, because the adrenaline highs. Even today, like I was cleaning my house because I couldn't focus on the game.
Yeah.
Because it was just too.
Do you watch like almost every game, or are you too busy?
I try to. Obviously, I've got work. If the game is on, I'll have it on. I've got two screens, so I'll have.
Did it take you a while to kind of understand CS with you not playing it before, or
yeah,
I feel like it's an easy game to watch?
Yeah, I still don't really. I mean, I catch up to it. But, yeah, I mean, I watch Rainbow Siege 6, for example. That's even more complicated. But
honestly,
I've got a team to guide us through that. People who actually know the game. So yeah.
How often do you meet with all the rosters? Again, we might be getting a bit down to the kind of day-to-day running. Can we just see your calendar? How often would you like meet the boys on the CS2 or on the Rainbow Six and go, right, where are we up to? How often is?
If they're at boot camp or a big LAN, I always try to go. So if we're boot camping or at a big LAN, I'll see them that for sure.
Okay.
The Rainbow team, for example, I think I've met them 4 times now. CS, once. Trackmania a few times. Yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't come out and see them without a reason. There has to be some centralized reason to do that. But yeah, as often or little as calendar dictates, essentially.
And you don't have a Dota team at the moment, no?
No. We're looking.
You'll
probably have one by start of November.
Okay. If that's your baby, I was just curious why you. Yeah.
Do you still play?
No, I can't play. My wrist is fucked, so I've got like carpal tunnel, so I can't.
Oh no.
Yeah. So I'm solely a console gamer now.
Oh my lord. Fair enough. All right. You mentioned you've got the Shuffle Masters, the event, right?
Yeah.
Which is it the second one that you've got coming up?
Yeah, second one. Yeah.
And your tweet recently suggested the idea of integrating some female-led teams as well. Is that happening? I was curious to see how.
So yeah, I think I asked about it too late. I think we sent out too many invites, but the third one definitely. I'll throw 2 female teams in that.
Okay. Yeah,
see how they go.
We did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it centered around the the female woman kind of scene, in not the scene in terms of the teams, but actually the kind of dynamic of females in gaming. And again, kind of touching on the UK scene, how it's poorly handled, I would say. So that's interesting. Yeah.
I don't get it really. I mean, it's a touchy subject for a lot of people because you don't want to be accused of sexism or anything. But there's an inherent imbalance between the ability of male gamers and female gamers. Male gamers are just better, and it doesn't make. There's no real reason for that. Like, you can't reference all the, not necessarily right wing bullshit, but you can't say men are stronger and physical. Look at fucking Donk. Like, Donk is. Yeah. No disrespect.
You just blow him over in real life. Yeah.
Like 40 kg. So if that guy is. There's no physical difference between that guy and, again, all respect to him, like the average UK female, if you say, for example. And we were at the big boot camp recently and we saw Big Equipper play. And they've got a coach, they're systematic, they're well functioned, they're good. They should be good. They should be good. I don't really know why they won't. I can't point a reason necessarily besides lack of opportunities, perhaps. So if we give them more opportunities, then especially playing against a male team, then that might be good. I hope it would be good. Yeah.
Would there be?
It would be interesting. Even like female coaches? You don't really see any female coaches.
That I don't get either. That I don't. I guess that is in part because of experience. But there's plenty of like 28, 29-year-old female pros now who are still about who can easily transition to coach. But all the female teams have male coaches as well. I don't necessarily know why or how to pinpoint it, but it's odd to me. But I hope female teams specifically, get more opportunities against male teams.
Would there be a potential into the Breach women's team?
Nah. I mean, we tried it. Well, it just. I don't. Maybe. I mean,
don't rule anything out. Yeah, put you on the spot there.
I mean, well, it's like you say. Like I'm kind of in the same boat as you, Sam. Like, I don't understand why the females can't compete with the males, but also there's not that many eyes on the female teams, so really, why would you? Unless you had like a big sponsor that wanted to push that forward.
Well, you know where the eyes would come from, because the people would watch a male versus female team in a legit tournament.
They would.
That's where I think they should come. They should be integrated more,
and that would raise the attention for female teams as well.
Yeah. Exactly.
Especially if like they compete them.
For one or two female pros to shine as well.
Yeah.
There's some legit fucking headshotters.
Yeah.
They play FPL and they fucking zone guys all over the place. So yeah.
We can get to the end of this and start wrapping things up, Sam. We've taken enough of your time. I just wanted to ask kind of what's next for Into the Breach as a whole. What your kind of, is there anything you particularly want to shout out while we're talking and mention any plans? What's the immediate to long-term goal now with everything? Not just CS2 based, but everything.
Yeah, it's going steady. There's some ecosystems coming out in R6S next year. I think the same as in Halo. As mentioned, we're hoping to get a partnership scheme there, which will be enable the passive income and revenue to do that thing long term. Pick up a few more sponsors. And try Inscape Be Cozy a bit more. I don't know what's going on with that brand, but I thought it was a good idea, but it's not selling so well. So if anyone's got any feedback on that or knows anything, then do let me know.
And that's your clothing brand, right?
Yeah. And then we'll build out TGH as well. So we've got big plans for TGH. But ITB is just slow and steady. We'll see how the CS roster does. We'll build out Dota. And then, just kind of not resting on our laurels, but we're not trying to push a large expansion. We'll wait until it happens naturally with one of the roster's large, deep runs in a major or otherwise. So yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll put the link in for the Be Cozy and THG and stuff in the thing anyway and stuff. So check that out, guys. Brady, have you got any more questions for Sam? I mean, I could actually keep you here all day, but I'm conscious that we've got.
We'll find next event. We'll go for a pint and we'll sit down and chat.
Yeah. I feel the same. Like, got 100 questions, but I just feel like we're just grilling Sam. So
it's a bit like that.
Yeah, I think we've asked most of the questions I wanted to ask anyway.
All right. Well, listen. Thank you so much, Sam. Like, honestly, appreciate you coming on. It's been great getting some insight into the scene and kind of from the organisation and management side of things, but the ownership side of things more than anything, because I don't think many people have that insight and that transparency. And we spoke about it before about you being one of the most transparent people on Twitter. So
it's nice to see on the scene, because we kind of said before we came online, like, the CS scene is just very they keep everything close to the chest, right?
Yeah.
So it's nice
happy
to see.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. Glad to talk to you.
No worries. Thanks, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like, subscribe, usual stuff, and we'll probably see you next week. Not as entertaining podcast. It'll just be me and Burley next week, probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, and best of luck into the breach, all the future games and everything. And cheers again, Sam. Thanks.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks, Sam.